Okay, so um, I was in a house and there was a lot of people in it, and I think they were all family, but like in real life, I don't know these people. And we were all getting ready for bed. Like people were coming and like just sleeping, like we were trying to make room. And I was making like pallets on the floor and beds on the floor, and they were like lined up, and people were in rooms, and I don't remember much about this part of the dream, but I remember that I thought that one of them guys there, the younger guys, um, talking younger, he was like in his 20s, like 20s or something, that he was my husband's brother, which once again, I don't know any of these people. He's not really my husband's brother. It's just people in a dream. Okay. And they were coming from something, and he was intoxicated and making passes or something. And I remember just laying him down on a pallet on the floor, and he passed out or something. And then my son was going to sleep as well, and we were all just like making room in the house for people. And then it switched to, so that was nighttime. And then it switched to my husband and I in a city. And it was nighttime, it was clear skies, and we were on a rooftop, and I could tell we were on a rooftop of like a hotel or something like that. And it was like a company party, dinner, like there was, little tables with white tablecloths and things like that everybody was about to sit at. And we were about to sit at a table, and my husband looked off in the sky and was like, "What is that? What is that?" And he rushed to the edge of the rooftop. And I turned and I went with him and kind of looked. And then the man at the table that was going to sit at a table behind us did the same thing. And everybody was going, "What was that?" And everyone's looking up in the sky. And off in the distance up in the sky, it looked like a star, but the star started doing something. And when I looked, I saw the star. Everybody was looking at it and going, "What is that? What is that?" And the star looked like it was it had a little flame, like fire, like fire flickering. And the star was moving left to right, like it was going left and right, left and right, left and right. And so the fire flame was bouncing back and forth left and right, like someone was moving left and right. And I saw that fire, and I was like, "Jesus, it's Jesus." And then everyone started running off the rooftop. So the rooftop kind of lowered, like we could run out to the front of the hotel, across the street. And the street looked like, it wasn't really a street, but it was like a street that was in front of the hotel. Maybe, you drive to the parking lot or something, and it was just where you park to go into the hotel. But the asphalt, I remember, on the street was like really shiny black asphalt, like it was wet, or like it had just gotten cleaned or washed off or something. I don't know why I remember that, but it was a really deep black, like it was wet, or maybe there was dew on the grounds or something. I don't know. And we stepped onto the curb, and it went into like a grassy area, like a park, like a grassy park with some trees and something, like sidewalks leading to a gazebo or something. And everyone that was on the rooftop and other people were running. So when we were going across the street to this grassy area, everyone's like running after this star, kind of like it reminded me of like chasing the Bethlehem star or something, like you're following where it's going or something. And when we were going across the street, I was telling my husband, like, hold up, I want to hold your hand. Like, I want to hold your hand. But he was like 3 paces in front of me. And I was like, okay. So we just kept running. Like, everyone just kept running. And I was just like, Jesus, Jesus, and I was like yelling it. And we got into this grassy park area, And as a whole bunch of people were still progressing forward, like a run, like not fast run, but like running, some people in the crowd stopped, and they just stopped and weren't progressing, or they would turn around and start walking back to the hotel. Like they just stopped, like blank stares, like either they were over it or tired, or they just whatever, and they turned around and walked back to the hotel. And I remember seeing this, and I would grab their shoulders, like after I stopped yelling Jesus, and I grabbed their shoulders, or I wanted to grab them, and I started yelling, repent, repent. And I kept yelling it, like shaking him, repent. And then I looked to my left, and I went to grab this other person that was in front of me, and it was my daughter. And I was like, repent. And I noticed it was my daughter, and she looked, and she kind of had a sad face on her face because she was looking at you, like she was looking for me, and she goes, they won't listen. I tried. They won't listen. And then I woke up. Okay, so I had another dream, and this one, we were living in a city in an apartment on higher floors, and we had just kind of moved there. And I remember you took a whole bunch of like one-way roads to get there, but they were like ramps, like highway ramps. And I knew I wasn't going to like the way you had to drive on these ramps to get there. I remember I was in the car, which was our car we have now, but my husband was driving, and we were going back to the apartment. It was like just an apartment, and he was driving on the ramps that lead to the apartment. And when you sat in the car, it was like it had blinders, like long blinders on both sides, and they were like he couldn't see out the window, like he was just blinded. And leading up to it, like it had a blinder on the left and a blinder on the right, the steering wheel very narrow in the middle, and at the end of these blinders was like a video game screen or something like that. And he was driving, just like very determined driving, just wouldn't listen to me. And I was like, be careful, you're gonna fall off the ramp. I don't think I'm like driving on these, you're gonna fall off the ramp. You're not paying attention. And I was like, you can't see through these blinders. Like these are blinders, you can't see through them, you're gonna fall off the ramp. And he just kept staring at the screen and going and driving and driving. Then when you got to the apartment, you had to park in a parking garage. So he pulled into a parking garage parking space, and beside where we parked, there was groups of people, and they were like tearing apart stolen cars or something. I knew that that's what they were doing. It's like a chop shop or something. And my husband got out of the car, and he just left. Like he just left and went to the apartment. You had to walk around a corner, and it took like a couple of good paces to get to the entrance of the apartment. And I was like, oh man, he just left me in this parking garage. I'm going to have to walk alone. And so I got out of the car, and the car was left running. And I closed the door. The doors weren't locked. The car was left running. And they noticed, they started coming around the car like they were still like tearing apart their cars that they had, but some of them started looking at our car. And I grabbed my purse out of the back. I grabbed a purse or something out of the back, and I had it, and I started walking away from the car, and I was like, I don't care. They can take the car. I'm not going to fight for that car. They can take it. Right. So I started walking away, and I had to walk by where they were tearing apart the other cars, like whatever, tearing them apart, taking materials or whatever, changing. And then I walked around the corner, and then their leader started following me. And I knew it was their leader. It was like the main guy, the boss or whatever. And he was following me, and I was like, oh man, something bad's going to happen. And I was like, no, no, no. And so I kind of turned and looked at him, and he was behind me, and then there was a woman behind him. And they were both bad. You could feel it. And then all of a sudden, he came in front of me, and he had a knife that he pulled out. And then I don't know, something weird happened, but he had a knife that he pulled out, and he kind of like pushed me to the ground and pulled out this knife, and I put my hand on the blade, and I was like, this is going to hurt. And I grabbed the blade, and I didn't feel it cutting, but I had it in my hand, and I was telling him, I can help you. Like, what do you need help with? I can help you. And then it was him and another man, and then the woman was standing beside me, and I was on the ground, and you could tell they were demonic. They were demons. It was demonic. And I was in a way, I was they forced themselves on me, in a lack of better words. For I don't know who's listening. Okay, so then I was right by the entrance of the apartment building, still in that parking garage. And somehow I got up, and the door opened, or I opened the door to it, and there was a group of police officers that started walking out. And I don't know if they were after these people or what, but my husband was walking in the middle of the police officers, but he didn't say anything to me, and the police officers didn't say anything to me. So they walked out to the parking garage, and I walked past them and went into the hotel, and my children were sitting in the lobby because there were some couches, but it was like a dark hotel. It was really dark. And my son asked, what's wrong? What's wrong? Because I was like crying. And, I was disheveled, and I was crying, and I was like, I just got hurt. Lack of better words. I just got hurt. I just got hurt. This man just hurt me. And then it switched because, okay, so when you wanted to go to the apartment, you went into this little lobby, and you went into an elevator from the parking garage, like in that little lobby area, and you pressed up to go to your apartment. And I knew that. But I never went up to the apartment. The dream switched. Okay, so then I was in the front of the apartment building, and I was walking on the curb, and there was like a four-way intersection there, and there was a lot of people just walking around. I don't know whether we were going or what was going on. I think someone directing traffic in the four-way almost, or something. And I started walking away from the building, and then I got across the street to the four-way on the other side, and then somehow, or for some reason, I needed to walk back. And so I went across like diagonally and stepped back up on the curb, like the sidewalk, and then there was this car that came through the intersection, and it was like a little car, and it came up on the curb. It was trying to run me down or hit me, and it was a man driving it. And then I don't remember what was said, but all of a sudden it sped off, like took off. And then there was more people that came out of the apartment building or came toward me, and they were like in groups, and they were going to sit down and like talk or plan something and sit on this grass area outside. And I remember my focus went to three women that were meeting and going to talk about something. And one of them was a mom and had younger children, like a boy and a girl. And the boy and a girl were a couple paces away on the sidewalk. And when I looked at them, there was like evil around them, like evil people, like demonic or evil people that were standing around them, like hovering over, like they wanted to do bad things. And so the women were sitting on the ground, like they were just moving on with what they were doing. And I was standing above them, and I turned around and I told the mother, I said, you need to be a mom. You need to get your kids out of here. It is not safe. You need to take them back inside and take care of them, and you need to protect them. They don't need to be out here. Right? So then all of a sudden we went from there, and we were in the main leader's house, like of the three women, the one that was holding the group meeting or whatever. And we were in her apartment in the building. We were in an apartment building. We were in her apartment in the living room. So then I remember I was still like disheveled and like crying over what kind of happened. And they were sitting there, and these women were so distracted with like planning a party or holidays or something going on they were doing. The children were in another room, and I was standing in front of them, and the main person was going around with like a notepad and a pencil in the hand and kind of like being distracted at things, and they were all just distracted, just planning something. And I was trying to talk to them about, and I don't know why, I think I was dredging up things like from my past, like what maybe God had brought me out of or taken me through with him or something, like, and I was telling them I had been hurt, like taken advantage of in the past, and I had been hurt just now, and there's things that happen and blah blah, and I was leading up to like a gospel on how, forgiveness of sins, and you lean on Jesus. It's all about Jesus, and he's coming soon, and and I never got to that point. They just went and listened, and I was crying, and the two women walked into the other room, I guess, check on the girls or the kids or do something, and the main person, the one that I was in the apartment, she, I don't know how I'm describe this. It has nothing to do with like who I think the person was or what type of person she was. It was just what I remember about her, and I don't know why. But she had short black hair, kind of like not even a bob, but kind of like a bob or inverted bob. I don't know. Short, and a tattoo on her arm. And she was just in charge. She was just leading whatever. And so I was kind of talking to her, and I was like, you need to listen. She was like, still distracted. And I was like, you need to listen. And so she sat down at the table and kind of looked at me, and she went to go write. And I said, no, you need to take the pencil out of your hand and set it down. This is like the most important thing you'll ever hear in your life. This is the most important message you'll ever hear in your life. And it kind of clicked. I saw it click in her eyes, and she was like, oh, I know. And I was like, huh? And I kind of understood that then she was a Christian. She was just distracted. She wasn't awake. She was distracted. And I was like, you know what I'm saying? And okay. And then all of a sudden, okay, so to my left, when I'm standing there, there's a window you can look out of. And outside, there was a whole bunch of people out there. There was like a yard or grass, and there was like a dirt, like over by the building, and there was a corral with a barn in it, and it had people and kids and like cowboys, cowgirls, and it was just, I don't know what it was. And there was children taking horse rides, and they were being led like if you're leading on a horse, just like pony rides, but they were a little bigger than ponies. And so after she said that, she was like, oh, I know. And I realized she was a Christian. She just was not awake. Or she was quiet about her faith. I don't know if she wasn't awake of the times. I heard a yell from outside, and I heard the yell said, she's gone, she's gone. And I looked out the window, and the girl that was dressed up, in the hat and the boots and everything, and she was leading the horse, was leading a little girl that was riding on the horse, in the saddle. And all of a sudden the saddle was empty. The little girl wasn't there anymore. And I knew exactly what was going on. So I started running out of the apartment and yelling, Jesus, Jesus. And I was running out of the apartment, and the woman I was talking to with the short black bob was running behind me because she knew she was awake then. And she knew. And so she was running behind me. And then there were some other people walking or kind of running down the steps to see what was going on and hear what the commotion was about. And so I was yelling down the steps. I went down 2 or 3 flights of stairs, like, Jesus, Jesus. And it had lower, like, it almost felt like basement steps, but it had lower, they weren't basement. I was coming from the top floor down. So, to the first floor. But the roof line of the steps was kind of closer to your head. And I remember just like running down the steps and yelling that. And then she was behind me. And when you got down to the bottom, you could turn around and go out another main door. But if you didn't turn around from the steps and went straight, there was another door that led to a back patio or something. And I was like, I hope this goes outside. So I unlocked the door and I was yelling, Jesus. And I unlocked the door and I swung open the door, and the swing port, that has a swing door, like a porch swing door or whatever, a screen door, I'm sorry. And flung that open, and it entered into a porch that was the length of the house, and it was a screened porch. And there was still people, like women, sitting on the screen porch, and they weren't even moving, like they were not phased. And in front of some of these women were children. They were still there. And there was 2 children I saw, and they were kind of bent over doing something. And I kind of just moved them out of my way. And I was running, and I was like, Jesus. And so I ran out of the screen porch, across the dirt road with this woman behind me, and entered the corral area. So it was like a gate, like a fence, a corral. And I entered it, and it was green pasture, like in that corral. And there was a whole bunch of people outside the corral, and there was like a couple of us, like maybe 15 or something, inside the corral looking up. And when I entered the corral coming in, up in the sky on the right-hand side, I looked up kind of in the distance, and I saw it was a gold ring, like a circle, like a gold ring, like a ring of fire, but it was gold. And it was going from left to right, not back and forth, just left to right. It moved from left to right. And in the middle of the ring, there was something. I couldn't tell what it was, but there was something in the middle of the ring. And I was like yelling, Jesus. And I was like, oh no, I'm missing him. Like he's moving on. And then all of a sudden, the ring stopped and came swishing over our heads, like in the corral, like came like, boom, like, and it swished over us, and it stopped above me, like maybe 5 feet above me or something. And the ring turned into a white Volkswagen bug, not bug, van, a Volkswagen van, kind of like Snoopy, not Snoopy, Scooby-Doo's, but it was a little one, so it only held a couple of people. It looked smaller, like it was only going to hold a couple of people, and it was white, and it had like daisy flowers on it, like different colored daisy flowers, and so it looked like a little hippie W. And I was kind of like, huh? And I kind of smiled at it. And then it flew further to my left, and it stopped. So I turned around to look at it. And then it was Jesus. And he came out with his arms stretched. He was wearing a white robe and sandals. And his arms were stretched out. And he flew toward me, like up toward me. And he looked like a 2D cartoon character, but he looked like a hippie, like a Jesus freak. He looked like a hippie, and he had this huge smile on his face, like kind of trying to make me like giggle or something. And he just had this huge smile on his face, and he flew up to me, and I woke up.